Hello everyone, this is Jimmy and welcome to episode 11 of FTB Infinity Evolved Skyblock mode. Last episode we put together the frames of 4 nuclear reactors, but now we have to fill them. Now we can't just stuff crushed uranium ore in here. This comes directly from sieving. Sieving sand, and only sand I believe. But we have to refine it into fuel before we can put it in the reactor. Secondly, we don't want to just fill our reactor exclusively with fuel. That'll cause it to overheat basically immediately and cause a massive explosion. So we need to fill parts of the reactor with coolant and other things to keep our reactor under control. So let's get started with the fuel. Our goal is to make quad fuel rods. So that's iron plates, copper plates, and just individual fuel rods. So that requires empty fuel rods and enriched uranium nuclear fuel, which is a mix of uranium-238 and 235. By count, it's approximately, I don't know, like 5%, I think. 235, at least that's what the goal is. So it's three tiny piles, or effectively nuggets, of 235 and 6 ingots of 238. Which comes out to a ratio of 3 to 4 or to 54, which is like 6 to 7%, I think. 6.6 repeating percent. So it's close to 5% enrichment. In any event, there's a couple ways to get. It's really this 235. That's the difficult thing to get. We'll be swimming in uranium-238. So it's processed in a thermal centrifuge from either crushed or purified uranium ore. I don't think there's any way to directly craft this. Correct, there isn't. Alright, so we can either take the crushed uranium ore, which gives one pile of it, one tiny pile, or purified, which gives 2 tiny piles. And again, we'll be swimming in 238, so this output doesn't matter. So given this, it's twice as efficient to use purified ore, so we're going to do that. Which means we have to take the crushed ore that we have, purify it in a ore washing plant, which yields some lead dust, which, sure, it's lead, and stone dust. This stone dust has a side effect of being useful for enduryl binder composite, which is how we make, enduryl conduits. But then we get the purified ore. We have to process this in a thermal centrifuge. The thermal centrifuge uses a lot of energy and is very slow. So it's a good thing that, I guess it's something that I should have started earlier, but it's a good thing that we're starting it now before we need it. Because after we do this, we still have to build the rest of the reactor interior bits. All right, let's make a whole bunch of machines then. The ore washing plant's pretty simple. It's basic IC2 components. The thermal centrifuge, on the other hand, is a bit more complicated. Not only does it use an advanced casing, so that's going to require advanced alloy, which is mixed metal. So it's iron, bronze, and tin plates. In this version, it's only iron, bronze, and tin plates. Seems I am missing a few bronze plates. I'll make as many as I can. You use this to make a mixed metal ingot, and then you compress that into an advanced alloy. Anyways, the real tricky thing, though, is that it requires a mining laser. So the mining laser is, again, it doesn't look that bad until you look at this iron turning blank. And that metadata value on it, by the way, is illegal. I'm pretty sure that the metadata only is supposed to go up to 32,000, basically 6 bits. I mean, 16 bits. But that number is way more than what fits in 16 bits. So, yeah, basically a lot of mods fail to handle this item because the metadata value is stupid high. Anyways, the only way to make this, though, is on a turning table. It requires a lathing tool and someone to generate kinetic energy. So you can either use a windmill to generate it, or more easily you convert electricity into kinetic energy. So now we need a turning table. So we need a turning table, an electrokinetic generator, and some blanks. For this, I'll be using the electrokinetic generator to turn EU into KU, and then the turning table to turn KU into, functional items. All right, so when you place the turning table, I think it doesn't have a dot. It can go anywhere. But when you place the electrokinetic generator, you need the dot to face the turning table. So I think what I just did is backwards. Turn around. Whoop. turn around. There we go. And then to power this, I'm going to use the PE power supplier to here, but that can't power EU machines. So we'll switch that with a MV connector from Immersive Engineering. Like so. Alright, now this should start getting power. Oh, this machine might only accept power from batteries too. I might need to give it a battery. Let me try one more thing though. It also needs motors. That's what do the actual spinamajigging. So depending on the number of motors in the generator, that determines how much RF it converts, or how much EU it converts into KU. So by putting 2 in here, yeah, I don't think it's running. All right, I suspect this is like the heat generator, where it doesn't like to directly accept EU for some reason. The workaround, like before, is to power an MFE, which serves as a battery of sorts, and then that powers the electric kinetic generator, and that powers the turning table. Now, you probably want some way to turn this off when not in use. You could just take the motors out. That does turn it off, but I think it also responds to a redstone signal. Nope, that appears to be a lie. Even when given a redstone signal, it keeps running, as evidenced by the fact that the energy buffer in here keeps dropping. So I guess to turn it off, you do just have to pull the motors out. Well, good news is you don't really craft a lot on the turning table here. So specifically, we're looking for the handle version, which is 43222. So you click this button to bring it down. Each click gives you a little bit of stuff. And if you click too many times, you end up with a useless item. The metadata value actually encodes how many times you click these. So don't ask me why that number is encoded in the metadata, but that's where they chose to put it, even though there are way too many valid states. Anyways, to minimize the number of times I have to use this awful machine, I just batch craft these. It's also not automatable as far as I know. Like, you have to physically click these buttons in the UI. So there's literally no way to automate this machine. You also break your lathing tool very quickly, apparently. Replacement lathing tools are made. Now, if you click fast enough, you can actually use up the KU that's stored in the machine. I clicked too many times. We failed. I'm trying to click faster to do it, but it's now causing me to make mistakes. If that happens, then you just have to wait for the generator to spin it up again. But there's no indication of how much KU is. Oh, there we go. I managed to do it. So, oh no, I managed to break my lathing tool. Dang it. I guess with 2 motors, it's probably, you have to click very hard. Oh no, there we go. No, this time I just ran out of room for the output. Anyways, now that we're done with the least intuitive machine in the world, that lever doesn't do anything. I'm going to turn it off by pulling those motors out. And while it's running, there's like this little red bar here. Eventually, the energy drains out of it and the little red bar turns off. But we'll put our mistake in here. No mistakes, only happy accidents. And yeah, no, that's good enough for now. There we go. Now that the electric kinetic generator is not generating energy, like that squid. Now that it's not generating energy anymore, the turning table has turned off, as evidenced by the fact that the little red bar is no longer on. In total, I think I was trying to make 10, but I had a mistake, a happy accident. So I only have 9. That's all right. 9 should be enough for the entire pack, I suspect. Hopefully I never have to use the lathe again. But for now, I'm going to need additional plates because I need to turn these into mining lasers, and this takes a lot of advanced alloy. The only use for these, at least the handle type blanks, well, they're not blanks anymore, right? They've been turned into handles. But the only use for these handles is to make mining lasers. And mining lasers are used in a handful of recipes, so we need... Let's see, we don't need the ender quarry ever. We don't need the buildcraft core. We need a thermal centrifuge. We'll definitely need a pattern storage. I guess we only need 2 then. I really only need 2 mining lasers ever. I definitely overmade turning handles. But whatever, let's make 2 of these. Looks like it's doing some auto crafting. Oh, product's on its way to me. There we go. 1, 2. All right, so these can be used for mining, but we're on a skyblock. They're not, there's no mining here. They are a little fun, but they're a little chaotic too. So if you want to experiment with it, feel free to make one. You know what? Let's experiment with one. They're way too chaotic to never use. So you charge them in an MFE or better, and they appear to take a while to charge. All right, but once, this is charged enough, it has a bunch of modes. So you can right click to shoot a beam. Pew, 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 pew. It actually mines all the blocks it hits with the beam. So let's go. Why is our tree farm full? I probably forgot to put void upgrades in these, didn't I? Oh, Jimmy. But, there we go. Oh, it sets some on fire. Well, that's less than useful on the tree farm. All right, I'll demonstrate it at an actual block. You shoot it, and the blocks get mined. Like an instant pickaxe. Ooh. Yeah, be careful what you shoot, because if you shoot stuff over the void, it falls into the void. Alright, well, that's just the beginning. If you hit the M key, which is apparently not the best key to use, because other stuff is bound to M. So, let's see. IC2, we will bind you to Shift M. Nope, apparently you can't bind stuff to modified keys in this version of Minecraft. Oh, how far we've come. What's a key that's not used? Numpad 9. Alright, if you hit your key... No? Does that not work? How do I change its mode? Mode is in mining. Figured it out. You have to hold the switch key and right click. So there's a bunch of different modes. The funnest one is scatter. I'm not going to shoot it towards my base because you can imagine how many holes that would poke in my base. But if you're ever, on a normal world and you need to go mining, just put it on scatter mode and right click a bunch of times. I poked holes in my base. But yeah, it pokes holes in things. It also drops everything it hits as a block. So it's actually a pretty efficient way to clear out a large area. Alright, I got to fix these holes I made now. Good as new. The other fun mode with the laser is... Let's get to it. Explosive mode. You can probably imagine what this does. Kaboom. I don't need that tree farm anymore, right? Yeah, this is so fun. Oh no. What have I done? Beep boop. Fun detected. Game crashed. It's also quite laggy right now, probably because of all of the items on the ground. So I guess I shouldn't do that anymore, as fun as that may be. I'm going to clean this up really quick here. With an automated tree farm up and running, we probably don't need this manual tree farm anymore either, so I'm not even going to bother replanting it. Alright, enough journeys in mining laser. Let's make the, whatever it is, the thermal centrifuge now. So that takes an advanced machine case, a mining laser, and everything else is pretty basic, right? Yeah. So give me one of these. And auto crafting will do the rest of the work. Ah, that was fast. Alright, a thermal centrifuge. So a ore washing plant, a thermal centrifuge. I'm going to need a tank of water. Let's get one of those. Out of crushed obsidian. Alright, rock crusher, get to work. Crush the obsidian, and don't crush me. By the way, I set up the world's slowest obsidian automation here. I'm not sure if I've shown it on camera before. Previously, I know I showed up the process of setting up this like hopper crucible thing, but now I'm automatically supplying the hopper with cobblestone. So don't rotate the chest, open the chest. It's always cobblestone in here. This thing makes obsidian painfully slowly. It's about as fast as our blast furnace. So like 10 stacks a day territory. Anyways, at some point I'll upgrade this. Instead of using fire, we can use something like... You know what, let's do that now actually. We have blazing pyrotheum already, right? So if I take a bucket of it, we can melt obsidian with that, or melt cobblestone with that, and it's much faster. The only downside about blazing pyrotheum is that it sets nearby blocks on fire. So if you surround it with slabs, which are not allowed to burn, you mitigate that problem. So anyways, now it melts at 7x speed. I think with the fire it was 2 or 3x speed, so it's significantly faster. It's still painfully slow though. Now that we have our machines, let's get started on the process. So step 1, ore washing plant, give it some water, which I have in my blue ender tank. Again, because water is used all over the place, I find it easier to just have an ender tank full of it than it is to create it wherever needed. Set that to auto output mode. Great. Step 2, give it power. This is a little awkward because, oh, no, it lets me connect there. All right, so give it power. Step 3, start feeding it items. How do I want to do that? I think I will replace this pipe with a chassis and let the logistics pipe system automatically feed it with crushed uranium ore. Logistics chassis here holds a active supplier module that's supplying crushed uranium ore to the ore washing plant that processes it reasonably slowly, although we could use upgrades when and if needed to turn that into purified crushed ore, tiny piles of lead, and some stone dust. So let's store all of that into a set of drawers. Unfortunately, the tiny piles of dust don't compact in a compacting drawer. I guess it's because you can compact them, but you can't uncompact them. So, oh well. Anyways, I'm going to upgrade all of these and put void upgrades in the stone and lead dust one. If the purified drawer fills up, then I'm cool letting the system stop. So a ejector upgrade, set it to eject from that side, put it in here, should automatically push this into the drawers, and then I can put another chassis here later to see all these items directly on the logistics pipes network. I noticed that at times when our water demand was high, that our blue ender tank was starting to drain a little bit. It's not there, drain, I mean a little bit, but to make it pump water faster, you can just put more world interaction upgrades and more speed upgrades. I believe the ideal ratio is about 1-to-1, but these take a lot of diamonds, so I don't want to make a whole bunch of world interaction upgrades. Anyways, that should keep our water tank filled for the time being. Getting back on track, the thermal centrifuge will process our purified crushed uranium into its constituent components. So I'll provide it, whoopsies, I need a module. I'll provide it with a active supplier module. Rose red, right, I was making some of that. Right, so, come on. All this running items around. My least favorite part of the game. Anyways, a active supplier module will pull what are these called? Purified crushed uranium from, right here. I suppose I could just as well use an item pipe of some sort. That would be a very reasonable thing to do, but I don't know, I just like doing stuff with logistics pipes. Put that in there, configure it to this partial mode, and I want a full stack. It doesn't have to be a full stack. This machine is also glacially slow. So at first when it receives the input, it has to heat up. It doesn't run until it's at 3000 heat. During this time, it draws full power but does no work. That's obviously not good. What you can do is you can supply, I believe if you give it a redstone signal, it stays up at full heat after it heats up. However, that does, consume energy. So if you're not going to run it sparingly, like if you're going to continuously run it, I do recommend you give it a redstone signal so that it doesn't drop off in heat between recipes. Between the ore washer and the thermal centrifuge, I don't actually know which one is slower. They're both pretty slow. I guess we can compare once this is heated. The heat's almost maxed. Once it reaches 3000, it'll start processing. And go. Lightning returns green. This is slow. So I looking at it, I suspect the well, this is also slow. I'm gonna time both of them and just see which one takes longer. Turns out both machines are equally slow. It takes about 25 seconds for each of them to process one recipe. So I suspect they're the exact same speed. It's just a little bit, error in my measurement system because I was just using a stopwatch. Anyways, now we're making these tiny piles of uranium and 235 and uranium 238. Let's store those in. Yeah, I guess let's store them in drawers so we can handle overflow, and then we can even automatically craft these into not that fuel, but enriched uranium nuclear fuel. Now, I do not want to pick these up with my hands because they will cause basically radiation poisoning, because IC2 is friendly to players like that. So, if I am to handle this, I do need to make the radiation suit. It's probably unavoidable that I will have to handle nuclear fuel, so let's make that suit now. The radiation protection consists of a scuba helmet, hazmat suit legs, hazmat suit chest piece, and rubber boots. They have protection value numbers on them, although they clearly don't mean the same thing as what I'm used to, because that's a protection number that diamond armor has, right? Except I only have 2 bars. They also have very low durability, so I'm not really going to bother wearing them. I don't have normal armor, so I could just wear them for now, but it's, if you get hit, you lose durability, yada yada yada. I think the rubber boots also absorb fall damage or something by taking durability damage. Anyways, if you make a armor stand from Bibliocraft, power it with redstone, you can shift right click on it to swap equipment very easily. So I could it's shift right click. Regular right click just opens the UI, but I can swap between having the suit on and taking the suit off quickly. Immediately after making the suit, I picked up the uranium without putting it on. So this is really annoying. You can cure it by drinking milk. By the time I get milk, the radiation will be gone though. Thankfully, I only picked up the uranium 238, which poisons you less than the uranium 235 does. But now that I'm wearing the suit, I can pick it up without extending my radiation debuff. I don't think this is actually doing damage to me. It's just being particularly annoying. Like before, we store the products in drawers. I have a void upgrade on the uranium 238, so when this fills up, the process will stop. Or rather, when 235 fills up, the processing will stop. But with the emerald upgrade in here, we're talking weeks of processing to fill that drawer. So it's not going to stop anytime soon. Alright, but now that I have it at this state, I think that's as much processing as I need to do. The rest is just crafting. So let me encode all the recipes. I'll start on the next row, I guess, to craft that into fuel rods. Oh no, I still need a metal former to make fuel rods. Alright, you know what? Let's set that up as a processing recipe. So I think this is our first time doing a processing recipe with logistics pipes. Processing recipes are a bit more complicated than crafting recipes because you don't get to just import the recipe into the crafting table, hit the import button, and call it done. First of all, you probably want each machine to be able to handle more than one recipe. So there are no crafting managers in this version of logistics pipes. You have to use chassis. The Mark V chassis has room for up to 8 modules, so it can hold up to 8 recipes. Then you need crafting modules, and I believe there are different tiers of these. It just determines I assume it's how fast they craft. So there's a Mark II and there's a Mark III, much like there's a Mark II and Mark III pipe. Anyways, to encode the recipe, you just set the input and make an instance of the output and set that. The machine, you have to put the chassis on the output of the machine. So the chassis, or the crafting module will automatically wrong mode. Is it in extruding mode? The machine will, or the pipe will automatically extract the output, so you don't need the machine to export the output. But if you want the input to go to a different place, you have to use satellites for that. Anyways, in this case though, the input and output can come, into the same side of the metal former here. So this is our recipe. 1 iron plate makes a fuel rod. Set this in here. Yep. And now, if I go and request fuel rods, it should just go and start auto-crafting them. So if I say, give me a stack of these, request successful, we should observe that a stack of iron plates gets dumped into here. Ah, they are off to the crafting. The rest of the recipes, however, can just be encoded into crafting tables here. So, oh, nope, just kidding, I lied. We have one more. we need to do fuel rod plus fuel in a canning machine makes filled fuel rods. I guess you can't can fuel rods by hand. That is a reasonable conclusion. All right, so I need a canning machine. Thankfully, this is also very simple to make. Is there actually just a solid one? Let's make the solid one. I think the UI in the solid canning... Nope, just kidding. That requires more processing. The UI on the solid canning machine is a little bit easier to use, but the fluid one can also do solids. So, we'll also set this up for on-demand processing of fuel rods. So, put this here. Let's give it some power. The recipe for this then is that one empty fuel rod and one enriched uranium nuclear fuel. Put these in. Give it a second to process. Makes one uranium fuel rod. I am wearing my hazmat gear, so I'm not getting radiation poisoned, which is good. All right, put that there. Drop this into that, and I think we're done. Now we can actually request fuel rods. So let's try that again. Let's request 3 more of these fuel rods. There we go. Now, this might get stuck if you request a tremendous number of items at a time. I don't know how smart the machine is, like if it'll prevent the wrong fuel from going this slot, or like if if you request basically more than a stack, will it prevent fuel rods from going into this slot? I think it does. In which case, if you request more, then the items bounce back to like their source inventory, where they'll wait there until they can be sent here again. You can locally buffer your crafting tasks to prevent the item bouncing, but then again, you need satellites and all that jazz, and that's more trouble than it's worth. All right, so now we are automatically creating single fuel rods, but for our reactor, we need quad rods. So let's encode the recipe to make quad rods. What type of copper plate do I have? We have industrial craft copper plate, but my iron plates are primarily immersive engineering iron plates. Okay. Suppose the most likely button could have told me that. So let's save that recipe, import that. And now we can request quad fuel rods. So I need 7 of these per reactor. So for 4 reactors, that's 28, and that's per 6 hours, 3 hours, something like that. Unfortunately, I can't just ask for 28 right now because that fuel processing takes a long time. So let's start with 7. I guess initially we'll only start one of our reactors. I also apparently requested 7 seeds. I want 7 fuel rods. While we wait for the fuel processing then, why don't we start filling in the other internals for the reactor? So for this reactor design, it uses reactor platings, component heat vents, component heat exchangers, and overclocked heat vents. If you're looking to duplicate my setup, it's 28 overclocked heat vents, a single component heat exchanger, 12 component heat vents, and I think it's like 7 plates or something. The plates are not strictly required, but they do make the automation a lot easier. I'll show you what I mean in a second. Anyways, we're a little tight on time today, so I'll probably do all this crafting off camera, but most of it is just waiting for a lot of plates to craft. Thankfully, I've known this, and I started the crafting of the plates already. So I should have most of the materials available. I just have to set up auto crafting. These are all the interior components, sans fuel for a single reactor. They annoyingly do not stack. Most of these components have durability, so I suppose that's forgivable. But even these component heat vents, which don't have a durability, don't stack, although the platings do, so I don't know. Bonus. You get some points for getting, partial credit. Anyways, now I just have to stuff all of these into the reactor in the right design. So I'll put a link to the reactor design in the description, but it's the same one I used in all the mods 3. It's trusty, reliable, always works, and easy to automate. For what it's worth, crafting all these components takes about 500 plates each of copper and iron, and like another 100 other miscellaneous plates. So if I hadn't pre-crafted the plates, waiting for 1,000 plates would take like hours. Thankfully, I pre-crafted both of them. Here's the reactor with all the internal components laid out. I'm like 80% sure they're in the right spot. If any are in the wrong spot, the reactor will explode and destroy our whole base. So, no biggie. Now let's get those 7 fuel rods that I requested earlier. I hope they're done by now anyway, so probably just chilling in here. Am I wearing my suit? Good. So this will not poison me. And let's put them into the machine. Now, I need to run it for at least 1 cycle before I can automate it, because I need a set of the output to use, like, to set filters and stuff. So the platings don't actually do anything in the reactor. They just allow you to specify exactly which slots stay open for fuel. So once you put your fuel in, I'm going to take a minute to double check it against the design to make sure. You know what? No, I trust myself. I make no mistakes. All right, so I need a lever to turn it on. And this lever doesn't do anything, so I'm going to borrow it. All right, the reactor only runs when you give it a redstone signal. We're looking at the core temperature number here. This number should always stay at 0%. If it reaches 100%, you get the big explosion. Every now and then, an item will lose a little bit of durability, but it does go up over time as well. So if I built it right, this reactor no components ever get destroyed. I'm going to keep an eye on it for like the next 5 minutes, make sure core temperature stays at 0% and none of our components melt down. But anyways, it seems like they run 1 durability per second, and there's 10,000 durability. So it's about 3 hours, a little bit under 3 hours per set of fuel rods. Everything looks good from here. We haven't experienced any meltdowns yet in the first couple minutes of operation. So I'm going to declare this flawless, because obviously if your reactor doesn't melt down in the first 5 minutes, it's working as intended. All right, so it does produce power though, which means if I put a MFE right next to it, it'll output the power into the MFE, and then we can use the MFE to send power to wherever we want. But now we are generating an extra 412 EU per tick, no, 420 EU per tick of power, which is pretty nice. So I'm also going to set up a thing here that will automatically stock a chest with fuel rods, because well, I want fuel rods to automatically be available. That's accomplished by putting a active supplier module on a logistics chassis. This functions kind of like an export bus with the crafting card. The network's small enough that the calculating the crafting plan is not going to cause a meaningful amount of lag. Anyways, and then you just have to tell it what item to produce. So that's pod fuel rods. Please don't rotate it. And that'll put it in the chest. I have it set to infinite mode, so it'll just fill up a chest. 1 chest full of fuel rods. I'm pretty sure these don't. No, they do stack, don't they? Since they stack, I probably actually don't want it in infinite mode. Let's switch that really quick to partial and have a, I don't know, 1 stack of fuel is enough to keep cached, right? This process isn't fully automated though, because the actual production of fuel rods requires iron and copper plates, which we cannot make on demand yet. So eventually this will go through my entire backlog of copper and iron plates, at which point we will no longer be able to autocraft fuel. But we'll tackle that problem later. There we go. Our second fuel rod has already shown up here. So I think let's wrap things up for today at this point. Well, I'll leave this running, over the next couple of hours. It'll use up the fuel that's in here, and then we'll have a set of depleted fuel rods, which we can use to make, to set item filters and stuff, and complete the automation of our nuclear reactors. So, I hope you guys enjoyed the process of, getting our reactor up and running. And yeah, I hope to see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye. I realized I haven't fed you guys in a while, so sorry about that. I'm going to be particularly generous today and give you guys some steak. Yummy, yummy steak. Thanks for your hard work.